Every entrepreneur has a story. Welcome to Happy Half Hour with an Entrepreneur, where each episode your host, Brian Carney, will share a drink with a successful business owner and have them discuss their unique journey, gaining insight on what it takes to be an entrepreneur and the different ways to get there. Brian isn't just a beer nerd, he's also the co-founder of River's Edge Advisors, a financial planning firm headquartered in Delaware, specializing in working with business owners. It's time to pour yourself a drink and enjoy a happy half hour with an entrepreneur.
Hey everyone, welcome to Happy Half Hour with an Entrepreneur. I am your host, Brian Carney. You may have seen my guest, Glenn Fedale, on the CNBC show, Blue Collar Millionaires. And to say he's a serial entrepreneur is quite possibly the biggest understatement of all time. He owns multiple companies. He owns a roofing company that last year did about 30 million in revenue. He owns a speaker company, a Bluetooth speaker company called Bumpboxx, and that did about 65 million in revenue. And he owns a concrete plant, and that did 20 million in revenue. And that's not all. That's not all he owns. So I'm interested to get into all this and talk to him today. So for this episode, I'm going to be trying a Yards Brewing special release for the Philadelphia Flyer player Kevin Hayes. It's called Big Hazy. It's a hazy double IPA. So I'm a big Philly sports fan, as is Glenn. So it's kind of appropriate that we're drinking it today. Glenn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. You got my regular old Miller Lite here. Cheers.
Perfect. Well, I'm looking forward to talking to you today. There's a lot to get to. So cheers to you.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, me too.
So let's talk about how you even get started as an entrepreneur. I mean, you grew up with 10, you're one of 10, the oldest of 10. Is that right?
Yeah, oldest of 10. Yeah.
So how does that sort of launch your life into being an entrepreneur?
Our dad was like, he was a printing salesman, and he was always involved in some side stuff, like some investments and trying to get some stuff. And, he always did decent. We obviously never wanted for never went hungry or anything, but, he always had big dreams of getting something that would break. And I think we all kind of took that. And that was my dad. And then, his dad and my mom's dad were kind of the same way. And with all the kids, we're like, man, let's do something. So, we were cleaning gutters at a young age. And we were like cutting grass.
The original hustle.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I ended up backing gutters later in life, doing roofs. But it was, whatever we could get by with some stuff. And I mean, it was just satisfying to really make that stuff kind of happen and work. And it was cool because my brothers, they were all kind of, they were specifically my two brothers, Adam and Alan, who are partners with me in the roofing company now. They kind of like, we all adopted the hustle and had the common thought of really pushing.
That's great. So you start G Fedale Roofing at 23, is that right?
Yeah. So about 22. So because we're up on 20 years now.
Wow.
So I'm 42 now. So yeah, I was working for another roofing company, and then I was like, he was doing like really just strictly commercial at the time, so he didn't really care if I was doing some residential roofs here and there.
Yeah.
And ironically, my wife's mother and my wife's mother needed a roof, and I found out that that I could make a couple of bucks on it. so like I beat everybody's price, and I still made like a month's wages in one day. I was like, hold on, I'm on to something here.
Yeah, exactly. That's a tough first. That's a bold first customer. Your mother-in-aw's never.
I know.
Well,
she wasn't the mother-in-law yet. So yeah. I mean, if I'd have messed it up, it might not have. my life might have taken a whole different direction.
So you taught yourself about roofing. Like you didn't have any formal training besides,
Well, no, I did. So I was working for a roofing company.
Okay,
and
got it.
So my boss didn't really care because he was all commercial, and so he wouldn't care if on the weekends we do a side job, residential, because we weren't competing, and
right.
He kind of encouraged it too, because cash money was cash money.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, I knew a lot of guys that would get together and work for certain people on the weekends. Like, oh, this guy, he's paying $200 a man. So I started doing that. It was $200 cash when I was bringing home like 400 for the week. So I was like, damn right, I'm gonna work on a Saturday and do that.
Yeah.
Can I work Sunday too? And that's where it develops. And I was able to, after doing my wife, she wasn't my mother-in-law yet, but she is now. But what was then my girlfriend's mother, after doing her place, I just tried to. I was like, let me find some more jobs. And after that, I was able to start finding jobs for these guys that were getting rounded up by other guys, and they liked working for me because I was kind of easy to deal with, and I worked right alongside of them. I wasn't just watching them. I was
right.
pretty good at it, picked it up quick, and from that point on, it just kind of grew, and I started having jobs overspill into the week. And I'll never forget my boss, Don Shin, and that's all credit to him, for this period of my life, because he really took a lot of time to teach me a whole ton of stuff, and he just expected me to really work hard and use my head. Even though I messed up, he wouldn't snap. If I messed up here and there, he wouldn't snap on me too hard. But he knew that I was starting to do more and more, and I guess he always says, I saw you kind of going a different route.
Yeah.
I would have loved to keep you forever, and when I had you, I wish I had 10 guys like you. But I understand that you were eventually going to grow.
Right.
He said, and so he said, he said to me, he says, what are you gonna do, man? It seems like you're doing pretty good with this. I was like, yeah, well, do you mind? I think I gotta buy a truck, I gotta get a reliable truck. He's like, well, how long is that gonna take you? You got the money, right? I was like, yeah. I just gotta go do it, and he was like, go ahead, man, you can use my truck. So,
Wow.
he says, so he said, you can use my truck for another week. So he let me, as I started, let me use his truck for a week.
That's pretty amazing.
I know, what an awesome dude. So it's just a lot about his character too. So anyway, he ended up saying, he said, hey, well, I guess I'll let you be the second biggest roofer, though. I was like, oh, thanks, Don. Don Zinder talking about. He gave me a hug, and from that point on, it's kind of like, well, I better not fail.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, though. You tell a guy that you're going to quit to go start your own company. I mean, technically, competing with him in a sense, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to get you're a good dude. I'm going to let you start by using my truck for a week. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's a big testament for him. And although we were two different industries, I was going after residential at the time, even though I knew commercial by managing projects for him.
Sure.
I was, it was so for the longest, like forever, if in the beginning, it was very, very, I was very, very diligent about if he was involved in any bidding process that I was on, I would graciously bow out.
Oh,
and
wow.
Nowadays, if I run into him, he's still established and he picks his work as he wants. He's like, hey, Glenn, I got enough work. Do you want this job? or whatever. So it's always good. And I say, I build that story to say, that part of everything that I think is important in all things, in all business relationships and all interactions, is try not to burn bridges with people. Now, some people it's going to be inevitable because not everybody's going to be happy about success, as that happens very, very often where people find reasons to be unhappy about. But I know with me, I'm cool.
There's a certain ego that comes in where, he definitely put his ego aside and was like, this guy's, he's out there trying to do his thing. And I'm going to, not only am I not going to try to, thwart him from doing it, I'm going to actually try to help him. And
exactly.
him. That's amazing.
Yep.
So your first year you do call it 350,000 of revenue.
Yep.
So, and 20 years later, you're doing 30 million in revenue. How does that happen? I mean, it's how do you make that leap?
There's like two easy answers to that. I mean, none of it's easy, but just very simply put is having the best people and learning from all your mistakes. I mean, it's really good. I know for a long time I was like, I've learned that, oh man, this guy's awesome. That works for me. I don't know what I'd do without him. And I keep guys on too long. Then when it's finally inevitable that they've got to go, then I find out that I could have fired them a long time before that. And they were just a disease. And I'm much better off without them. Just these fears of not being able to do something with somebody without somebody that's there. It's just a matter of really being really, really, really diligent about like keeping your finger on the pulse, having the best people around you, systems in place, which I'm not saying I'm great at. Like I have
Right.
some really good people that have really helped put it in place. But I mean, a lot of stuff that you pick up, people say, be slow to hire and quick to fire.
Yeah.
That's true. I found myself being far too forgiving in a lot of situations. Whether you get whether somebody's stealing from you and they're trying to call it something else, or just all these different things. It's just a matter of like, when your gut comes up and something's not working out, even if it's a great guy, even if they have some skills, you cannot allow certain things to go on. You really have to make an example, So that's part of it. And then just be visionary, keep your finger on the pulse is part of it. I've had people that I've trusted very, very, very closely that I've never ever that I never think would do anything wrong. And this is not referring to any of my family members. Thankfully, all my family members have been very, very trustworthy. Don't start guessing here. Who's he talking about? But like I have had some guys who I admired earlier in life, and I was really happy, thrilled to have them come work for me, and then finding out that that there was an agenda, or the agenda got built over time, and then you find out that somebody like this would steal from you, or force numbers, or really, really kind of like almost seems like they'll prey on your downfall. So these things considered, just kind of learns your lesson of keep your finger on the pulse and making sure stuff's moving. A lot of people ask, and cut me off if I'm answering the question that you're going to ask me later. But a lot of people are like, how do you get into so many things and still keep track of it? Well, that's one of the good things, because if I am doing that stuff and I have a couple things going on that are like widely known, like these people, it's obvious when you go down, if you go on 95, chances are you're going to see one of the, 25 concrete trucks, you're going to see one of the 100 Fedale trucks, at any given time or another, So, the fact of just those two things, besides Bumpboxx, besides some of the other stuff that we get involved in, my management that essentially takes care of stuff for me, it diverts them from trying to make me micromanage anything,
right?
And because they know it's not that, and it's all, it also helps not with. Although this should never be the case, human nature, you're going to see all this kind of stuff pop up, and it's going to help not with the jealousy stuff too. Like, oh man, he's sleeping late. Yeah, that's why he's not here while we're out plugging away. It's like, no, I'm sorry, I'm in a different country trying to organize manufacturing or something.
So, with your roles in the company, obviously have changed over time, especially the roofing company. What do you think your sort of unique skill is? Like, what are you absolutely the best at when it comes to all your companies?
I think I think with my experience, I have a good instinct and direction. I'm good at dealing with people. Good at telling like who is going to be somebody that I want to do business with and somebody that I don't. I've been in situations, like there's, as you can tell, when you're in this situation, when you're in this situation, you'll see a lot of people that will come and oh man, I got the next biggest idea and this and that. And it's hard because, you don't want to crush anybody's dreams. Say, sorry, I'm not, but it's like, you only have so much time in a day. You can't answer every call, and you can't go to every dinner that somebody wants to take you to talk about, improvement. And believe me, it is hilarious. Yeah. Some of these ideas that people come up with. But the point of it being is, I think being a good judge of character, seeing who I want to do business with, and deciding, like, one thing one thing I've become good over time at is making sure I don't under deliver on anything. If I get into something, then it's because it makes perfect sense. I can see it actually happening, and I'm going to be able to under promise and over deliver. Yeah. The last thing I want to do is get behind something. It's like, whoa, it's not what he promised me. I never, and that's once that feeling starts festering, then another human nature thing. It starts. Little bad things follow.
For sure. So that ability or that skill to read people and trust your gut is one that is really difficult for someone for you to be taught that. That's kind of like you can improve that skill over time just through your life experiences and through dealing with people. How do you think you've really honed that skill? Like, is there anything in particular that's really helped you hone that skill?
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, having some people that were very close to you that I ignored the signs and then finding out that it went way worse. And that goes with a lot of employees. It also goes with people that, people that say they want to get into something and they say, let me do this, I'll do that,
Yeah.
It's a matter of fielding them. And I guess just kind of being in all different walks of life, like I've had a lot of friends that have, went a totally different path than me.
Right.
And we could have both went the same path. And some of them were very, very intelligent, whether it was drugs or whether it was, just kind of something else, And I've seen them go that route, and I've seen them get very, very shiesty on that side of things.
Sure.
And there's also some guys that have, that have turned into what they'd probably like to think of themselves as professional con artists. And I know how to, I've known how to field that. I'm not saying I'm the best, we can all fall for anything at any time, but I've gotten much better at it, and with that has come some gray hairs. I was always young and fresh and all that stuff, but then I wish I still had this experience, so I don't have to make some of those mistakes again. And that's what it really comes down to too. Is like I have the phrase like I never lose. I only learn, because when you lose something, you're gaining experience. Sometimes it's expensive one, sometimes it's not, but you never want to have to do the same thing twice. Yeah. Make the same mistake twice. And if you do, then you really learn. Just definitely don't make it 3 times.
Sure. So along those lines, I kind of think, looking at the trajectory that you've been on, there has to be, you could go back and point to one mistake where you go, at the time that really sucked, but you might be able to point at that and go, that was probably the best lesson I ever learned. Do you have one that comes to mind where a mistake that you made that you go, you know what, this is probably the best thing that ever happened to me from a learning standpoint?
I'll tell you, it's really interesting. All right. This is a good one. All right. Yeah. Cause I'm like, man, what's one of them? I'm flicking through a hard drive with a bunch of megabytes in there of mistakes. No, but you think about there's always been in the past, the people say, oh, Glenn bought Miami Ink, or Glenn owns the show Ink Masters and all that, and none of that was true. What it was I had become good friends with a producer who wrote a couple pretty popular TV shows. And then in turn with him, he was the godfather of Chris Nunez from Miami Ink, his child. Yeah. Chris Nunez was making the jump from Discovery Channel to Spike TV, and that's when he started Ink Masters. Well, they were looking for a place to film it. And he says, hey, I can get it filmed at this shop. And we did do some filming early on there, but we did not get it as the residence there, which we were hoping for. Although we kind of got labeled as co-producers, which means that I didn't even hold a camera or anything. It didn't mean anything, but it was pretty cool. And what I noticed was it was an awesome situation because it was in Miami. All the industry was getting tattooed at our shop. We would throw these awesome parties. I was meeting all these really, really cool people, and I really didn't make any money. Any money that I was making on it was just going into me traveling and having fun down there. Yeah. So all in all, it was nothing. But I also found myself not doing the diligence as I should have because of somewhat of being starstruck, which was stupid me of being like, this is going to work out. I can't. This is great. And also me not relying on this for my income. It was like, oh yeah, this is going to work out sometime in the future. And I'm having a blast, and I'm I'm running into all these things. This is life I always wanted to live. It was just really great, fast moving, and just really cool. And I would have been much more diligent about it, and I probably could have helped our success a lot more, maybe being with negotiations or bringing more of the right people in, or maybe even just spending more time in management and getting some stuff there, getting some stuff done there. But aside from all that, that was part of it, making sure that, that you treat anything like you should, and then you be ready to step in and do that or have a backup plan if there's any issues. That was the one thing. But on the other side, one thing I didn't realize was, as that came, there was a personal brand we need to build for ourselves.
Sure.
And it was part of it was, this kind of jumped up my roofing brand, because this is also when I was starting the concrete company back then. But there was kind of like a hype going on. Well, Glenn did this. He bought Miami, which I said, I didn't, or right. I started Big Mattress. No, I didn't. But a lot of people want to talk about it. So there were certain people that might have a commercial building they were an engineer, and they're the one gathering the bids and this and that. They're like, yo, hey, tell your boy Glenn the job's his. And we just want him out here to do it, just because they wanted to talk about stuff. Or
that's
because
crazy.
They saw me on CNBC. Yeah, so that personal brand is a huge thing. And I see some of these other guys going around and getting it too, man. I see some of these up and coming companies, which, I have nothing but love for people around,
Sure.
Whether other roofing companies, whatever it is, the point of it is, for these guys to what they're doing, and every move that they make is a reflection of their brand. And even, they say all publicity isn't bad publicity. I mean, back in the day when we would get into some scuffles or whatever, that would make the social news, hopefully not the newspaper news, but the social news. And it was another part of developing the brand,
right?
Whether it made people talk about us and not like us more, or whether it made people want to deal with us more, or whatever the case was. These are things that I learned like very, very hands-on, and looking back at it, I was like, wow, that wasn't such a bad thing. I would not, I could have probably done something a little bit better with that money, but the life experience and then the branding it did for me personally I would have never been able to purchase that.
That's interesting. So just the illusion that you had started Miami Inc. helped,
or purchased it. Yeah.
Purchased.
Yeah.
And then you're on that CNBC show, and does that turn business?
So that was another thing I was worried about, because it was first supposed to be called, when they were filming a pilot,
yeah,
it's first supposed to be called American Made. I was like,
yes.
American Made, that's me, and then it went on to being like, oh yeah, by the way, they scrapped that name. They're calling it Blue Collar Millionaire. I'm like, oh, millionaire. That sounds kind of like douchey, like I'm kind of like being braggadocious or something, no, Blue Collar Millionaire. I'm like, all right, whatever, And then my other concern was like, well, who's gonna want to get me to do their job if they're like watching me on TV and I'm the Blue Collar Millionaire,
Good point.
I might be making too much money off of these jobs. Like, we can't afford him. He's on TV as a millionaire, So, but it was another funny thing that all kinds of crazy stuff popped up, like I can remember a guy calling me from Canada saying that he remembers me from the blackjack table in Vegas, and we were like joking and having a good time. He's like, I'm sitting here with my daughter. She doesn't believe me that I know you. Because we're watching it in Canada. I'm like, oh,
that's
my God,
crazy.
That's me. And I remember the guy because he's a really heck of a nice guy. And he was like on this crazy run. And I'm not a big gambler, but I like to sit down once in a while.
Yeah.
And then another time was I was sitting there. Oh yeah, I got pulled over coming back from New York, and we were my buddies up there, a car club involved. It was like a celebrity car club. Like we do like a lot of charity stuff. So we were up there every Wednesday night to feed the homeless. We're back doing it now, but we had to take a break during COVID. But they've been doing it for like 7 years. Called PCM Live. Really good guys. Wayne Horn, Snyder. They're into a lot of different stuff, but good guys, New York guys. And they're like, I was like racing to get back for a meeting, and I think I still like, I don't know, something terrible, like $120 on 95. and this cop comes behind me like, yo, what are you doing? I was like, bro, I was feeding the homeless last night. I gotta get back for work. And he was the nicest cop in the world. He was like, listen, I can tell you can drive, but there's other people that can't. Just slow it down for me, man. I do some stuff with like charity too. I respect that. Turn me loose. I was like, cool. Well, then, like, I don't know, like 7-8 months later, I get a call. It's like from my office saying, hey, a New Jersey state trooper called and said, he wants to talk to you, and you're not in any trouble or anything, but he wants to talk to you. I was like,
never good.
Man, I wonder if it's this guy, because he was a really heck of a nice guy. This is like right outside of New York. when he pulled me over. And sure enough, I called him. He's like, man, this contractor messed me up. And I was watching TV the other night and I saw you on there. I was like, I pulled that guy over. I was like, all right, man, what happened? You gave the right guy a break. How can I help you, man?
That's amazing. You never know. That's awesome.
And just a lot of funny stories like that where stuff has popped up and it's all been good, positive vibes. And, the biggest thing that I wish I could have stressed more, because the thing with that show, I didn't get to see an edit.
Yeah.
And that, like, my part of it lasted like 15, 20 minutes or something, but it was like 40 hours of filming. I thought I said all this like cool stuff. Like, I was like, wow, yeah. I was like, that was really like a good job. I think I worded that well. And like, lo and behold, I don't see any of it. I don't get the B-roll footage. So yeah. I'm like, oh man, and some of this stuff was like, my dad raised 10 kids. My mom was, she taught piano lessons, but aside from that, she was a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
And he always worked really hard. And I have the advantage of having him work with the company now too. He does some help with business development, like, with bigger clients and stuff. But, and I never want to discredit, it wasn't like we had it rough when we were younger, we went to public school or whatever, but that was,
sure.
Everything, a lot of what we have to benefit from is a direct effect of his upbringing, his hard work, his doing that, all that. So
yeah,
I wish they would focus a little more on that, because I'm like, like, you're making it seem like we were hungry when we were kids or something. I'm like, no, Dad, I swear.
And then it like almost turned. So I watched it the other day. I watched like a 6-minute episode of it. So it's an interesting lesson about what happens when you kind of when you're asked to do things for the media. Like, sometimes you can get interviewed. This happened to me one time, so I know exactly what happened. You go and you say all this stuff, and then they package it up, or they write it, or they show it, and you go, that's not what we did.
Yeah, I know. I didn't say that. I meant something else.
Yeah, and they're like moving things around. So, and it's so frustrating when it happens that, but it is, it is part of media, I guess, when you go out there and do it. You kind of can't control what they sell, and it is a little eye-opening when you go, well, I thought when I left that taping, we were going down this road, and then we ended up down this road where.
Yep.
It is interesting. So
it is, man. It is. It's just another lesson on like what you got to watch out for and what you can really, and I'm sure that's why there's so much specific entertainment lawyers and people needing approvals on this and that. And
yeah,
it's like some of the stuff now. One of my most recent ventures is we started a production company out in Los Angeles, and it's been. We've got some really cool stuff popping right now. We had DMX until he died. Now we're dealing with the estate. Yeah, I know. It's like, man, we could have lasted another year, but he was going through a rough time of it as of recently. So, but it just those kind of things I've been learning a lot more about. And I'll tell you, one of the other things, like I was bringing up the PCNY guys that I do the car rallies with, and that I do the feed the homeless with, which are awesome guys. If you ever get a chance, check them out on Instagram, PCNY, at PCNY. But they are just really, really like give back guys, like solid. And it's amazing how that's helped their brand and their business. And I've learned from that through that. And me and my brothers, my brother Adam has really spearheaded it, but we started something, I guess it's almost been 5 years now, called Roofs from the Heart, where like we have 4 different offices with the roofing company. So one's in Newport, one's in Chatsworth Ford, one's in North Wales, and one's in Lewis, Delaware.
Okay.
And we're still on an expansion. So we're moving to some other places yet to be announced. So I can't say anything yet. But for each of these areas, we do these contests where with Roofs from the Heart, we're able, and if you ever get a chance, you really got to look it up. Roofs from the Heart. And if you just put Roofs from the Heart G Fedale, you'll see some really cool testimonials where each one of our offices will do a contest for the area where people will nominate other people. And when they nominate, like, say, somebody that's like, our first one we did was really like, it was watching the video, it's really heart wrenching, because it was like this girl, she lost her husband, she had 2 young boys. Her husband was really, really worried. He had stage 3 sarcoma. Some kind of cancer, and like she lost him very quickly. But he's really worried about the house not having a roof, and that we had 3 finalists. How we determined the finalists were the most likes, shares, and reposts through Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
And the return we had on it was amazing. Like people were just like all over it. So it was
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, it really boosted. So we had her, we had another lady who had a very, very handicapped son, who she spent all her savings upgrading the house for like a ramp for the wheelchair and all this kind of stuff. Last thing was a roof and it was leaking. So she was one of the 3 finalists, and the other one was this girl, Sophia Denisio, who I was actually familiar with her brother. He died in a tragic car accident years ago, but she was an ambulance worker in Philly, and she ended up coming down with I think it was colon cancer.
Oh, geez.
And she was young. Like it was pretty insane that she was like somebody that would have came down with us. It's more like an older people's disease. I think she was probably like in her 20s or early 30s, but yeah, probably early 30s. But she, when we came down with it, we were supposed to announce what's one of the 3, and we had such a good response from it. And then we also had so many people wanting to get involved with it that like everything from like our suppliers, our dumpster companies, to even some of our guys wanted to help with the labor for these people.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So everything on that, we were able to give all 3.
Oh, wow.
We were all able to give all 3, and then just really kind of stimulated a whole nother thing. And it's been cool, man. And it was funny too, because like a lot of people have started, like other companies have seen it as a good form of marketing, and like anybody that what is it they say like copying is the best form of flattery.
Yeah.
Plagiarizing is the
imitation.
best form of flattery. Yeah.
Yeah. Imitation.
But if you can get other people to do that, to plagiarize, like helping the community, then go ahead, man. Let's everybody do it.
Have at it. Yeah.
The world will become a better place,
Absolutely. That's great. That has to be amazing then. So we'll actually like link back to that on the show notes for it. So that's great. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Bumpboxx. So I think Bumpboxx is a fascinating business. So for those of you who don't know what Bumpboxx is, it's sort of like an old school stereo, except it's Bluetooth, and they're giant for most of them.
Some of them. We have a whole lot of different ones. This is really interesting too. I don't know. You got to check the website out. So
I was on the website yesterday. I saw you guys have like the mini beeper.
The retro pagers, yeah.
Retro pagers.
And they're waterproof, so you
That's
can
awesome.
take in the shower and jam out. And they sound great, dude. It's pretty crazy.
So I think this is fascinating because you go from being a roofer to having to go into this business, and there's certainly a celebrity component to it where, you see pictures with, it's funny, since I was Googling Bumpboxx to like get a little bit more information, now it shows up in all my social media feeds, and Shaquille O'Neal.
Algorithms got you.
Yeah, exactly. They do. And there's Shaquille O'Neal holding the Bumpboxx. So, I think that's, so how does that happen? Like, how did you get into that business? And the celebrity angle, I think, is fascinating.
Well, yeah, so that's been interesting. I mean, that's another like really learning curve that I came into some things that I had no idea, but I was really open to learning about it. So first off, me and some friends were doing, me and one of them, Eric Gonzalez, another guy.
Yeah.
We were buying like from China, like in September, we get like a bunch of hoverboards, karaoke machines, drones, just stuff that was kind of like, made for cheap. It made cheaply in China, but had good enough quality to last.
Sure.
For a while or whatever. And we were doing it right. You heard those hoverboards catching on fire. That was because people were making their own lithium-ion batteries. we would buy the Samsung battery and we would make the rest. Yeah. So we weren't the ones catching on fire. That was the trick to it. That was the big problem they had. But so we were doing that in September, and we, try to turn like 50, 60 grand, which we get a container full of this stuff. We try to turn it into like 120, 130 grand, right before the holiday season. And it was cool. It was just another kind of side thing, hustle, trying to get this thing going.
Sure.
And our partner, our soon-to-be partner was this guy, Rob Davis, who lives out in Stockton, California, where our main office is.
Okay.
And this is Bumpboxx's main office, which is Bumpboxx, Bumpboxx. So make sure you do 2 X's.
2 X's, yeah.
Yeah, 1 X is a maternity website. They should be thanking us for all the traffic we directed to them. But anyway, so Rob actually had a really had kind of like the biggest part of the design, like, like, hey, this is something that'd be cool, don't you guys think? And kind of like coming up with it. Yeah, we would love, and I'll never forget, like we shook hands at Charlie Square Oyster House like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And said, dude, let's do this. And what it was Eric was gonna help with some stuff. I was gonna use some of my celebrity connections. Like you see, we do all these collabs. We did it with Modelo. We did it with our Real G for Life. We've done it with some reggaeton guys. We've done it with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
EPMD. We did it Drake. We did it with Khalid. All the major names. And we're spreading that more. We're licensed with the Major League Baseball. We're just all kinds of stuff. We got the Big Ten schools. So these things. The first one that we ever did, ironically, was a collab with Chris Nunez. And that was kind of part of me helping with the funding, me helping with kind of the direction of celebrities. And they actually offered us to go on Shark Tank because Little John ended up with one, and he posted it. And Damon John was like, I need one of those. He said I'm going to get kicked out of my hotel room. Damon John, the bald guy,
the FUBU guy, right? Yeah,
exactly, from FUBU, from Shark Tank. He's like, I'm going to get kicked out of my hotel for blasted Rock Kim too loud, because he's an old school rap guy too.
Those things are loud too.
Oh yeah,
they're real loud.
They really are. Especially since we've definitely improved a lot. But so he was like, hey, would you guys like to go on the Shark Tank? And one thing we realized talking to him was like, wow, Shark Tank sounds like a great idea. We don't have to make a deal. Well, at this time, no matter if you made a deal or not, when you go on the network, you sign 5% of your company over to the network.
Is that right?
Yeah, and we were gaining some momentum. And we also had this guy, which is one of the most important guys for me to bring up, a guy named Trey the Truth, who's he's a very, very well-respected Houston rapper. I wasn't really, I hate to say this, but I wasn't really familiar with him until he reached out to us. He's like, I like this and that. One of our other guys, a partner who's no longer involved, who I ended up buying out because he wanted to chase another venture that he had his eye on at the time.
Yeah.
He knew about this guy and knew the importance of this guy and knew the connections that he had, and that has been a major part of us being real with him and being like good men, good businessmen and stand-up guys, and keeping our promise to him, not even having to get involved with the attorneys so much of like, $100,000 of writing contracts for this and that. Obviously we've written stuff and it's been good and stone, but it's the main thing of us keeping our word and making sure he gets what he gets out of it, he does well of it, and us too, teaming up with him as a business partner. And he has used his reach to touch everybody. And he's also viewed as, he's so respected in the community, and has had some tough times with major labels in the past, just because of some arguments that went on, which I'm not even going to go into. But this is a real major part of our success. That's how we've been able to get on every major music industries, Instagrams and Facebooks, and these people are very willing to post it. Like the Floyd Mayweathers, the like I said, the Drakes, the Snoops. Like these guys are so willing to do this because they know that's our partner, and he's had a tough go at it with some of this other stuff, and they'll do anything because he's the guy. I mean, this guy Trey the Truth put Rihanna on, he put Chris Brown on, he put a slew of different people he's brought into the industry. These people just have major respect for him. And he's still, a lot of these people are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's far from the case with him. Right. But he stuck with him. We stuck, we stuck with him. He's stuck with us. And since then, we're seeing a lot of growth. And we're really kind of, we culture each other too. He's used to a certain way of doing things, and we have our own stuff input, but we listen to each other, and we try to take what's going to be rational and going to work the best for everybody.
Yeah, those posts by, I know obviously, like, certain celebrities get paid an absolute fortune to post
It's insane.
product.
Yeah.
And for 10 seconds on their story or whatever it is, they get paid, $1 million, whatever it is. And to have that, those people I've seen those pictures with Snoop or Shaq or whoever it is, legit A-list celebrities posted. It has to be incredibly valuable.
It is insane. Yeah. Everybody's like, how much you pay for that one? How much you pay for that one? It's like, honestly, we're very, very fortunate, but it just goes back to saying too, just because I don't particularly listen to Trade and Truth music. I didn't at the time. I'm making a point now.
Yeah.
I'm making a point now, but now, it's something that in the beginning I could have been like, hey, I'm not really familiar with this guy. I think I know rap, but he's H-Town. He's Houston, very well respected over there. He does a lot with charity himself too. He has something called Trade Day. I don't know if you guys saw him at the last, what is the Emmy Awards, whatever was just on. He got like the humanitarian award.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So if you look up Trade and Truth, that's T-R-A-E, the truth. He's he nonstop kind of help. It seems like anybody that really does well has a big focus on charity. I've come to
weird how that happens
more and more.
Yeah, that is a truism. You sort of see, especially if you put it out, if someone really goes out to help the community with no expectation of something in return, usually it's weird how good things end up happening to that person. It is kind of like you put that good mojo out into the.
That's it, man. That's it. I'm a firm believer, man. If you want the best for people around you, good's always going to come back.
Yeah,
exactly. That's it. That's because it's just kind of how you move with everything you want, with everything you do.
Yep.
Doesn't mean you're going to, you're going to be taken advantage of in any situation. That doesn't mean it's okay for you to be taken advantage of in any situation, or put up with somebody, trying to give you a short end of the stick.
Yeah.
It's fucking food. It's like nonstop. Take his time.
Yeah, no, that I think that you make a great point there. So one of the last question I want to ask you. So you have all these crazy businesses that require you to travel like crazy, and you're still obviously if you follow you on social media, you see you with your family out and, on vacation and doing stuff with your family all the time. That has to be a tough thing to be able to balance all that. How have you been able to balance,
Oh man, nothing's ever like easy, like perfect or easy, but same thing, man. The intention's there. And I say that for anybody that I'm around too. You can tell if somebody has good intentions.
Yeah.
Or if they're stick and move and they just, it's selfish and whatever. And, I try to put that first too. It's like, I'm proud of my baby girl, my little daughter, Juliana, who she's 18 now, but she, not to advertise that online. Cut that out. But she just graduated at Archsphere, and she's going to go to Alabama University. So
oh, nice.
Yeah, and I got to visit that with her. We went to school visiting and stuff like that. So it's just really good to see. I don't know, man. I'm just. It's nice to see like the little beasts that they've become just because of like, the involvement of like their mother being very involved and me being involved, and also what they've seen in their dad too. Like it's funny to see their friends, and their friends like, oh man, this, that,
I saw your truck. Man. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, my little baby's still proud of me, like I can still go up and put my arm around her and she's happy.
That's awesome. That's incredible. Yeah. Well, this has been great. I appreciate your time. And like I said, it's always impressive to see. I'm actually a little pissed for you that they didn't name that show appropriately, because you really.
I know. Maybe we'll petition for that. Yeah,
exactly. Let's change the name of the show. So I appreciate your time. So cheers to you.
Cheers to you, brother.
Yeah,
thanks,
man.
man.
So
always good having a drink.
Absolutely. So actually, this beer is pretty good, man. The Yards did it up. So a little strong, 8.7%. I'd actually give this a 4 out of 5 on my
Really?
Yeah, it's real good.
I'm gonna try that fly.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So if you want to learn more about Glenn and his companies, visit his website at gfedaleroof.com. and Bumpbox with 2 X's because you don't want to go to the maternity site. So that's bumpboxx.com. And if you want to connect with me on Untapped, my username is brcarney7. And to learn more about how my firm helps business owners with their financial planning, visit riversedgeadvisors.com. And finally, to hear past episodes of the podcast, go to happy-half-hour.com. Glenn, congratulations on your success, and cheers.
One other thing, GFP Mobile Mix.com.
GFP. All right.
GFP, like Glenn Fedale Papa, GFP Mobile Mix.com. Even if you need a small amount of concrete delivered, we only do our concrete actually only does huge, like kind of like industrial installs, a lot of refinery work, that kind of stuff, road work. But as far as if you need to ever buy concrete, we can supply it with a post hole worth, or or enough for a whole pool, whatever.
That's or 95, like you said.
Yeah, or 95.
Yeah,
exactly.
And we'll post that too. So thanks a lot, Glenn. I appreciate it, man.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Happy Half Hour with an Entrepreneur, sponsored by Rivers Edge Advisors. For more information on how Rivers Edge Advisors can help you, visit their website at riversedgeadvisors.com. If you'd like to connect with Brian Carney for business advice or just to share a beer, follow him on Instagram at riversedgeadvisors_LLC.